So, good morning guys. After how many, almost 2 weeks or 3 weeks na tayo din nakapag-meet or almost a month na. So, how was your vacation? So, I hope na you enjoyed your Christmas break. Okay? So, for this meeting, we will be discussing the week 3 chapter or Taxation on Individuals part 1. Okay. By the way, for the result ng video, ano to? Ng music video, di ko lang na-share or di ko lang nadala yung results ko. Nasa bahay ni Iwan ko. Okay. So, don't worry, everyone got very high scores. Very good. Nagustuhan ko yung presentation nyo. And it was it was a nice way for us to all relax, di ba, and enjoy the holiday season. Okay. So, again, for today, as what I mentioned before, uh, more of a recitation type yung yung lesson natin. Okay? Since I already uploaded the files beforehand, and due to the time constraints, di natin madidiscuss lahat ng concepts of taxation. Okay? So more of, we will be only discussing the key features of taxation, those important parts. Okay? Di kasi lahat very important na, or some items can be left out to self-study na lang. Okay? So, to start it off, okay. Wait lang. I'll download your class list pala para I can have the recitation. Okay. So, how do I grade your recitation? A person is graded from 0 to 5 in a given day. Okay. So, if you recite within a given day, you can have a score of as high as 5. Okay. So, yun ang perfect score mo. So, each meeting, magre-recite tayo. So, i-add ko lahat ng scores. So, each meeting dapat may maximum of 5 points ka. So, if we still have 4 more meetings or 3 more meetings, so 3 or 4 times 5, yun ang total percent or total score for the recitation. Tapos yung score mo for the recitation, so yun ang magiging grade mo for our recitation. Okay? So, para alam nyo lang kung paano yung recitation natin. So if you do not recite or if you are absent, so you will still earn a very minor credit. Okay. Kasi absent kayo due to blackouts or something. Pero compared to reciting, iba talaga yung scores nyo. Okay. So there are 30 of you. So marami-rami rin akong tanong. So I hope that everyone would recite correctly. Okay. So I'll be calling on people usually, or I'll be asking for volunteers for our recitation. Okay. So, okay na. So, to start it off, okay, so we are on taxation on individuals. So, part 1, we'll be discussing certain chapters on taxation on individuals. Okay, so we'll be discussing chapters 3 and 4, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so chapters 5 and 6 will not be discussed because those topics are different or iba yung topics niya. Okay. So to start it off, introduction to taxation. So first question is, what is income? Or what is the difference between gross income and taxable income? So can anyone tell me, does anyone want to recite? What do we mean by income? Okay, Miss Perez.
Sir, audible po ako.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yung income, sir, is what a person has earned, and the difference between gross income and taxable income is that gross income is still subject for allowable deductions, which will be also discussed later on, and taxable income is the net income or the income that will be subject to tax.
Okay, so very good.
Yes, sir.
So income is the amount of money that we have earned. Okay, this is ito yung kinikita ng isang tao. Okay? So this is the amount of money typically earned by a person. So mostly dinescribe ni Ms. Perez ang difference ng gross income and taxable income. So ano bang main difference nito? Okay. So when we talk about gross income, typically gross income refers to the whole class, okay? Or a class of income. Okay. So Typically, gross income is an item of income na buo pa. Di mo pa nababawasan yung mga deductions at saka yung mga exclusions, buong buo pa siya. Okay. While taxable income refers to income that is already or should be subjected to taxes or should be subjected to income tax. So yun ang main distinction. Gross income is a whole class or entirety, while taxable income is only a part. So if you could imagine a pie, 'di ba, parang pizza pie. So gross income refers to the entire pizza pie, while taxable income refers only to a few slices of that pie. Okay. So, typically income is subject to tax since income is the best measure of an taxpayer's ability to pay tax. So, it is said to be an excellent object of taxation. So, paano doon natin masasabi kung kumikita ang isang tao or may kakayahan siya? It is through our income. Okay. So, next is, what are the elements of gross income? So, there are three elements of gross income. Can anyone tell me or uh, can anyone discuss the first element lang? One of these elements. Okay, Miss
Sir?
Lanova. Sige, Selanova.
Sir, and audible, sir. So the
Ah,
first element is
sige.
return.
Sige, sige.
Okay na, sir.
Yes.
So the first element is return on capital. So ito yung parang markup from the capital na na-receive ng isang taxpayer. Yun, sir.
Okay. Wait lang ah.
Or increase in capital, sir.
Nasa, wait, excuse me ha, wait lang. Nasa folder ni Amy
Yes,
ka lang.
sir.
Okay. So thank you for that. Can you recap lang? Sorry. What do we mean by return to capital?
A return on capital, sir, is the increase in the wealth of the taxpayer, sir. So parang yun yung increase sa capital ng isang taxpayer. Or kung nagbebenta tayo, yun yung markup na nilalagay natin sa cost. Yun, sir.
Okay. Does anyone else want to expound on that? Okay. Buhayan. Buhayan.
Yes, sir.
What do we mean by return on capital?
The return on capital is parang kumbaga sa computation yun sa sir is for example I sold my phone for 15,000 and then I bought it for 10,000. The return on capital will be 5,000, sir. So kung ano yung nakita ko sa pagbenta ng bagay na yun, sir.
Okay. So, thank you for that. Okay. So, what do we mean by return on capital is that just like in business or just like in life, we invest in things. Okay. And when we invest our time and efforts on certain things, di ba, magbebenta tayo or magwo-work tayo, typically we have a return o nagkakaroon tayo ng kita or nagkakaroon tayo ng income. Okay. So, when that income is a return on the amount or time that we have invested, it is called return on capital. Please take note, there's a distinction between return on capital and return of capital. So when we talk about return on capital, it is an item that typically increases our net worth. So ibig sabihin, tumataas yung value mo. So yun nga sabi nila, ito yung pagkikita natin. However, what I wanted to know was that or what I wanted to hear is that return of capital typically increases our value or our worth as a business or as a person. So capital, what do we mean by capital? It is any form of wealth or property. So return of capital is actually a return on the investment that we have made. So example nga, kapag may nagbenta ka ng let's say 850 pesos, tapos yung cost mo is 380 pesos, yung kita mo na 470, that is what we call return on capital. Meanwhile, return of capital is the concept or the return of the amount that you have invested. Ito yung cost mo. Ito yung magkano yung ininvest mo sa business. So example, pag gumastos ka ng 5 pesos para gumawa ng isang siomai or lumpia, okay, tapos binenta mo ng 6, so yung 5 pesos mo is the return of capital, while yung piso na kita mo is the return on capital. So magkano yung kinita mo sa capital na ininvest mo. So those are the main concepts, okay? So yung entire 6 pesos is what we call the total return or total sales. Okay, so please take note of these items or these notes lang ha. So, paano naman pag paano na naman or paano naman pag ang isang item has infinite value and cannot be valuated. Okay? So, paano ba natin i-determine yung return of capital? So, example, if a person's life, health, reputation, or certain works of art, how do we value these things? And paano yung concept ng return of capital on these things? Okay. May limit ba or may ano bang ano dito? Yung entire amount ba is may return on capital ba tayo on these amounts? Can anyone explain to me the concept of capitals with infinite value? Uh, Samon, Miss Samon.
Sir, ang rule kapag may infinite value ang capital items is not sila nita-tax kasi parang hindi na measure. For example, ang life, hindi siya measurable in monetary terms. So, hindi mo masasabi na nag-earn ka. Kaya hindi siya tinatax.
So anong mangyayari sa amount of return? Ano siya? Return on capital ba siya? Return of capital?
Of capital, sir?
Are you asking me? Dapat kampante tayo. Ano siya? Return on or what?
Return of capital.
Okay. So yun nga, very good. Thank you for that, Miss Samon. Okay. So, paano pag may mga capitals tayo with infinite value, this typically or these items are typically considered as return of capital only. Di ba kasi life, health, reputation, and certain works of art, these items have infinite value. Okay? And typically, we cannot evaluate this. So, paano pag kumuha ka ng insurance at binayaran yung value nito? So, typically for these items, these are only considered as a return of the capital that you have invested. Since these items do not have or cannot be valuated normally, any amount paid for the loss of these items or these capitals such as life, health, or reputation or certain works of art are only considered as return of capital. Because yung nga sabi natin, since their valuation is infinite and cannot be normally valued in terms of peso or in terms of capital, di ba? So ano nangyayari? These are only mere returns and therefore they are not taxable and should not be subject to tax. Okay. So, okay na tayo ha. So, these items are only considered as recovery of lost capital. Okay? Ibig sabihin na recover lang natin yung lost capital kapag binayaran tayo. So example, may life insurance ka tapos namatay yung tao. So any amounts paid for that life is only considered as a recovery of the lost capital. It is also the same with any cases for human reputation or health. May nakabangga sa'yo, okay? Tapos binayaran ka niya for the lost time and effort, okay? At saka yung ano to? Moral damages. So yung items na yun are only recovery of lost capital. However, different po to sa recovery of lost profits. Okay? Pag binayaran ka niya for any lost income or any loss would have been income, therefore, yung recovery of lost profits is subject to tax. So example, to give you a clear example nito lang ha. Example, naglalakad ka daw sa La Purisima. At one time, nabangga ka daw ng kotse. So, the owner of the car, okay, dinala ka sa hospital tapos siya nang gumastos lahat ng hospital bills mo. Plus, you sued the person and the court granted you, let's say, 1 million pesos in moral damages. Okay. So, yung 1 million pesos and yung hospital bills na binayaran niya, these are only recovery of lost capital. However, if the court told you or if the court told the person na nakabangga sa'yo, magbabayad ka rin for the, let's say, 1 month of lost income. Yung 1 month of lost income is what we consider as recovery of lost profits and therefore, subject siya to taxation. Bakit? Kasi yung lost profits or yung amount na binayaran sa'yo for recovery of lost profits is still considered as return on capital. This would have been earned, okay, on top of your investments or on top of your capital. And therefore, should be subject to taxation. Okay, so that's it for the first concept of an element of gross income. Okay, it's a return on capital. So what's the second concept? Can anyone tell me? Wait lang let me check sino nag-una. Sige, Clemente. Then, for the third concept, we'll go to Aguilera. Sige, Clemente.
Sir, ano po yun, sir?
Discuss the second concept of, or second element of gross income.
Itong health, sir?
Huh? No. What's the second element of gross income?
Yung realized benefit, sir?
Don't ask me. Okay? Nag-raise ka ng hand. So, dapat alam mo. Okay. What's the second element?
Realized capital. Realized
Uh,
benefit, sir?
Hindi, nagtatanong ka kasi, ayaw kong sagutin. Okay.
Realized benefit.
Realized benefit. Okay, so what is realized benefit?
Parang yung hindi yung kung sir, kung yung ano yung makukuhang parang benefit sa 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 capital mo.
Okay.
Yes.
Care to expound on that? Can anyone? Miss Cortez, can you help Clemente, Mr. Clemente?
Yes, sir. Yung realized benefit, sir, is the advantage na na-derive ng taxpayer, sir. Meaning ng realized benefit, sir, is that may na-earn na yung taxpayer, sir. Meaning po, no, nagkaroon ng transaction or ng onerous transaction between the taxpayer and another party, sir. And this transaction led to an increase sa network ng taxpayer, sir.
Okay.
For example nun, sir, pag nagkaroon ng sale, sir.
Sige, continue.
Okay, sir. For example, sir, if nagkaroon po ng sales, sir, meaning nagkaroon po ng exchange between the taxpayer na nagbenta and the another entity, sir. So, nagkaroon siya ng money, nagkaroon siya ng benefit, sir, in exchange for na-sacrifice niya na, for example, inventory, sir, or ano ang nabenta niya, sir.
Okay, thank you for that very good explanation. So the second concept or second element when we talk about gross income is that there is a realized benefit. So what do we mean by realized benefit? So first, kailangan muna natin pag-usapan anong ibig sabihin ng benefit. So benefit means any form of advantage derived by the taxpayer. Hence, in order for an item to be recognized as part of gross income, the benefit must have been realized. So what do we mean by realize? Use or earn, which cause an increase in the net worth of the taxpayer. So typically, nagkakaroon daw tayo ng realized benefit pag tumataas yung value mo as a result of the exchange. Okay? So what are the typical requisites for realized benefit? Number one, there must be an exchange transaction. Ibig sabihin, may exchange kayo between two or more persons. Okay? So pag mag-isa ka lang or there's only one way of exchange, that is not an exchange. Okay? But rather, it is a donation. Okay? Number two, it must involve another entity. Di ba? Pag nakakaroon tayo ng exchange or when there is a transaction, of course, it involves another person or another entity. And number three is that there must be an increase in net worth. Okay? Ibig sabihin, tumataas yung value natin as a person or as a business. So this is the second important element when it comes to gross income. Okay? Masasabi natin gross income siya typically if there is an increase in the value or benefit that we have as a taxpayer or as a person. So pag nagdenegosyo ka pa, kumita ka, okay? Tumaas yung value mo as a person. Or sa accounting pa to, basic accounting, yung net worth natin or yung equity natin tumaas as a result of our business. Okay? So this is the second element of gross income. Okay? So it's very simple. Paano pag complex yung transaction? Only the onerous portion would be subject to income tax. So paano, sir, pag gratuitous yung transaction? If it is a gratuitous transfer, it is not subject to income tax because there is no exchange, okay? There is no earning. Wala kang ginawa. So if wala kang ginawa or wala kang action, okay, typically these are only subjected to uh, another form of tax which is subject to transfer taxes or donors taxes. So pag binigay lang sa'yo, wala kang ginawa, okay, these are not exchanges or these are not onerous transactions, but rather these are considered as gratuitous transfers. Okay. So, uh, any other questions? Example. We have an example here. Ha? Okay. So Pio had a piece of land worth 300,000. He sold the land to Andre for 550,000. The fair value of the land as of the date of sale was 700,000. So question, magkano yung portion applicable sa income tax, magkano yung portion na applicable to transfer taxes? This type of transaction is what we call a complex or a mixed transaction, wherein a piece of sale or an exchange involves two or more types of taxes. So, since binenta niya for 550, however, the cost was 300,000, yung gain na 250,000 is subject to income tax because this involves an exchange of money. Okay? Meanwhile, yung fair value ng land is 700,000. However, binenta mo ng 550. So, it could be assumed by the BIR or by the Bureau or by the government that you were trying to abscond or trying to minimize the amount of taxes that you would need to pay. So therefore, yung difference ng selling price at saka ng fair value is considered as a donation it would be considered as a donation, okay, by its nature. Okay. So in this case, yung difference ng 550 from 700, since 'di ba? Ang tanong is sinong tao ang magbebenta ng isang property for less than its fair value? Okay? So, if that's the case, this 150 or the difference of the 150 would typically be considered as a donation made by the taxpayer. However, per Train Act provisions, complex transactions do not automatically mean na may transfer taxes tayo. Kailangan mo munang i-prove yung nature ng transaction. Baka mamaya naman, although the fair value is high, however, the market conditions dictate a different situation. Okay? So that's it for realized benefit. Can anyone tell me or explain the third element? Okay? In order for an item to be considered as an element of gross income. Sino yung minention ko kanina?
Aguilera, sir.
Aguilera. Sige, sige. Can you explain? It's a very simple concept.
The third, sir, no?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, sir. So the third element for gross income is that it is not exempted by law or by the Constitution. So basically, it's not explanatory that it's not exempt from taxation. But then again, there are following items of income that are exempted. Therefore, these items are not considered gross income. So
Okay.
it's self-explanatory naman, sir.
Okay, very good, 'di ba? That's why if you notice my PowerPoint, di na natin in-explain because it's very self-explanatory. In order for an item to be considered as part or as an element of gross income, of course, it should not be exempted by law, contract, or treaty. So all items that are exempted by law, contract, or treaty are not an element or is not considered as an element of gross income, and therefore is not part of income itself. Okay, so these are the elements of gross income. Okay, so in order for us to fully understand, gusto ko malaman if na-gets nyo ba talaga, let's have a very short exercise. Okay, so, ano to? I want you to answer there in your own homes itong short exercise na to. And let's see kung na-gets nyo ba yung topic natin. Okay, so identify whether the following items form part of gross income or not. Okay? So, I'll give you, it's 9:36 in my clock, so I'll give you 4 minutes. Try to answer. Okay? So, try to answer out the PowerPoint. Okay, so 4 minutes guys ha, I'll be calling on someone. Okay, para i-answer to. So, wag kampante. I'll be calling on someone to answer this one. Okay, so again, 4 minutes. Okay, guys, since it's 9:40, let's answer this one by one. Okay, so it's very simple lang naman. Uh, so I'll call someone ha. Sige, Gadin. Is Gadin here? Ah, si Astin na lang. Nag-raise ng hand si Astin. Sige, Astin, let's answer. Uh, which of the out of the 10 items, which should be subject to or should form part of gross income?
Um, those that are subject to tax, sir, are number three, sir, yung winnings from gambling.
Okay.
And then yung number four, yung earnings from drug sale.
Yes.
And then we have yung debt canceled by Ferdinand for work done kasi there was service rendered.
Yes.
And then we also have number nine, interest income, which is an
Yes.
actual increase in the net worth of a person. And also number 10 po, which is earnings from business, syempre subject to tax po.
Okay, thank you. Very good. So,
Thank you.
the items that were mentioned by Astin actually were the items na dapat nating or na dapat mag-perform part of gross income. So, number one, sale of car to brother for lower than market value. This should not be considered typically because this is or this should be or this is a form of gratuitous transfer. Diba? Again, as I explained, pag magbebenta ka for lower than market value, it is assumed that you are trying to get away with paying taxes and therefore more of a case or more than not ang nangyayari dito is that nagiging gratuitous transfer siya. Okay. So yung gift to kasi again, this is a gratuitous transfer. So winnings from gambling. Okay guys, please take note ha. Any form of income or income regardless or form or shape, regardless kung galing siya sa legal or illegal means, okay? Is still or should be considered as part of gross income. So regardless kung galing siya sa gambling or sa drugs or sa pangingidnap mo, okay, it should form part of our gross income. So, debt canceled out of kindness, hindi kasali, and increases in value. Okay. So, increase in value of jewelry, hindi siya kasali. Bakit? This is only a benefit that has increased your net worth but is not realized. Okay. Bakit hindi siya realize? Kasi di mo pa na-earn or di mo pa nabebenta. Okay? So, increases in values of property are typically not considered as gross income. So, sa ano pa to? Sa accounting pa to, these are gains from changes in fair value. Typically, gains from changes in fair value typically are not considered as part of gross income unless nagkaroon ng sale or there was an exchange already. So, debt canceled by Ferdinand for work done is considered as compensation or may ginawa kang trabaho, therefore, there's an exchange. Considered siya as income. Loans are not considered kasi nanghiram ka lang. It's a one-way exchange and there is no gain. May utang ka. Okay, interest income and earnings from business are earnings or are nagkaroon ka ng gain or nagkaroon ka ng net increase. Okay, therefore this item should be considered as part of gross income. So sa mga di nakakuha, try to answer it again and try to reason out or try to check the elements kung na-answer niya ba yung tatlong elements or hindi. Okay? Are there any questions or clarifications before we move on? Okay. Since there are none, let's move on. So, na-answer na natin yung questions na to. Okay? Again, what if an item of capital has infinite value? Of course, di siya masasubject to tax. These are only return of capital. So, next question is, what are the types of taxpayers? Okay. Can anyone tell me the two major types of taxpayers? Okay. Avelino.
The two major types, sir, of taxpayers are individual taxpayers and corporate taxpayers, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So there are two major classes of taxpayers. So for this portion, I'll be the one discussing na lang ha kasi sobrang haba ng topics natin. So I cannot ask everyone to recite on this part. Don't worry, marami pa tayong items for recitation. Okay. So, what are the two major classes of taxpayers? We have individuals and we have corporations. Okay. So this is according to the tax code. Okay. So individuals can be segregated into citizens and aliens. Okay. So paano mako-consider as citizens? Typically, you are a Filipino citizen pag pinanganak ka sa Philippines, okay? Or you had your Filipino citizenship elected before the age of 21, okay? Or parents mo Pilipino, okay? Or nanay mo Pilipino, okay? So those are citizens. Meanwhile, aliens, sino tong mga aliens? These are people who typically are not citizens of the Philippines. Okay. So, incorrect term or another term, ang tawag natin sa kanila ay foreigners. Okay? However, excuse me lang. However, for tax purposes, we call them aliens. Okay. So, excuse me for a while lang ha. Somebody's calling. Excuse me. Okay, sorry. May tumawag kasi na client. Okay. So, again, sinong mga aliens? These are the foreigners or non-Filipino citizens. Okay. So, how do we segregate citizens and how do we segregate aliens? So, again, citizens are Filipinos or typically, these are persons who are born within the Philippines. So, sino-sino classified? Ito yung mga taong classified as citizens. Okay. When we talk about citizens, dalawang major classification, resident and non-resident. So what do we mean by resident citizen? These are Filipino citizens who are living within the Philippines, okay? Who are residing within the Philippines. Meanwhile, non-resident citizen ka pag di ka nakatira sa Pilipinas. Okay? Or typically, you are not residing within the Philippines. Sir, paano pag nagbabakasyon ako? So pag nagbabakasyon ka, you are still considered as a resident of the Philippines. So ang tanong dito is saan ka umuwi or saan ka natutulog for the remainder of the year or for more than half of the year. So if you are within the Philippine soil and you sleep here within the Philippines for more than half of the year, therefore you are considered as a resident citizen. However, if you are outside of the Philippines or mahaba yung bakasyon mo kasi maraming kang pera, okay? You are considered as a non-resident citizen. So, sino-sino pa bang classified as non-resident citizens? So, of course, we have the following. Okay. The following are classified as non-resident citizens. Okay? Number one, yung nasa abroad. Okay? Kasi sabi nila, gusto ko nandito, gusto magtrabaho dito. So either you are an immigrant or you are for employment abroad. Let's say nasa US ka or nasa Hong Kong ka or nasa China ka or nasa Spain ka, okay, for work or for immigration, you are considered as a non-resident citizen. Number two, you work or you derive income from abroad and your employment requires you to be physically present abroad most of the time during the taxable year. So example, yung income mo galing sa labas, however, required ka rin na sa labas, example nito mga seaman. Okay, yung mga seaman are the second classification. Income mo nang gagaling sa labas and most of the time required na nasa labas ka ng Pilipinas. Number three is that a citizen who was previously considered as a non-resident citizen. and who plans to permanently reside within the Philippines anytime during the taxable year. So kapag dati non-resident ka tapos gusto mo nang umuwi dito sa Pilipinas, you are still considered as a non-resident citizen. Okay. So ito yung mga tao na considered as non-resident citizen ha, yung mga taong nagwo-work sa labas for employment or mga immigrants and yung mga seaman. Okay? And people who were considered as NRC or non-resident citizen tapos bumalik sa Pilipinas during the taxable year. Okay. When we talk about citizenships or citizens, okay, please take note. There's a number of days required. For citizens, ata it's 183. Wait 183 ba? Oh, 183. Okay? You are considered as a non-resident citizen if you're outside of the Philippines for more than 183 days. Okay? 183 ha, please take note of that. Pag 182 days ka lang nasa labas ng Pilipinas, considered ka pa rin as a resident citizen. Okay, but more than 183 or 183 and more, non-resident citizen ka na. So what does this, bakit may effect or bakit natin dinidistinguish yung resident citizen from a non-resident? Didiscuss natin later on. Okay, aliens can also be subdivided into two types. Meron tayong resident alien and non-resident alien. So anong distinction nito? Resident alien, of course, from the word itself, nakatira sa Pilipinas. So example nito nga is si Kyle from Becoming Filipino. Is considered as a resident alien. Okay, kilala niyo naman si Kyle, di ba? Yung 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 foreigner na may Facebook page, di ba? He is considered as a non-resident resident alien because nakatira siya sa Philippines for an indefinite time. So there are two classifications for you to be considered as a resident alien. You live in the Philippines without a definite intention to stay, so di mo alam kung kailan ka uuwi, or yung stay mo is of an extended nature and temporary home mo na ang Pilipinas. Okay, so that's the time na mako-consider ka as resident alien. So sino naman ang NRA or non-resident alien? Ito yung mga Pilipino or ito yung mga aliens that do not stay within the Philippines for more than 180 days. Okay. For less than a year pala. Okay. So if you stay within the Philippines for less than a year, you are considered as a non-resident alien. So typically, resident aliens are aliens who stay within the Philippines for more than a year. Pag less than a year, NRA ka. There are two distinctions of non-resident aliens. Okay? We have NRA ETB and NRA NETB. Anong ibig sabihin nito? If you are engaged in trade or business, paano natin masasabi if you are engaged in trade or business? Typically, if an alien does business within the Philippines. Okay? However, the more usual distinction natin kapag NRA or non-resident alien engaged in trade or business ka is if you stay in the Philippines for more than 180 days but less than 1 year. Okay. And the second type of non-resident alien is NRA NETB. Anong ibig sabihin nun? These are non-resident aliens not engaged in trade or business. Okay guys ha? These are just some acronyms na ginagamit natin when describing types of aliens. Okay. Kasi makapagod na magsabi ng resident alien, usually ginagamit nating RA or NRA. Okay. So, you are considered as a non-resident alien not engaged in trade or business if you stay within the Philippines for less than 180 days. So example nito is yung mga nagko-concert dito sa Philippines or yung mga pumupunta dito for short vacations, these are considered as non-resident alien not engaged in trade or business. Okay, so yun ang main distinction ng RA at saka NRA. Okay? So don't worry, magkakaroon tayo ng final classification mamaya. Okay. So, nandito na. How do we determine, okay, whether a person is considered as resident or non-resident? Typically, the first thing we do is we check for the intention. Of course, tatanungin natin how many days do you plan to stay or what's your purpose within the Philippines. Okay. So, ang purpose mo ba dito ay para magnegosyo or para maninirahan, okay, or not? So, that's the first thing that we ask, okay, to appropriately identify the classification ng isang tao or ng citizen or ng alien. Okay? If yung purpose niya states na he plans to stay here for the long time or for the long run, of course, magiging resident siya. However, if hindi clear sa intention niya kung kung anong purpose niyan, doon na natin gagamitin yung length of stay. So for citizens, kailangan more than 183 days siya na sa Philippines para ma-consider siya as resident citizen. Anything less than 183 days will be considered as non-resident, as I what as na-explain ko na kanina. And for aliens, if more than 1 year siya, resident alien siya. If less than 1 year, but more than 180 days, engage in trade or business siya. If less than 180 days, not engage in trade or business siya. Okay, so yun ang main classification na bakit natin dinidiscuss to? Because this will have an impact towards later on. Okay? Typically, NRA and ETB are taxed at 25% ata, 25% of the entire income they have earned. Meanwhile, for resident aliens and NRA, ETB, and resident citizens, they are taxed using the tax table. So, may difference sa taxation. So, let's not worry about that for now kasi di-discuss natin later on. Okay. So, the third type of taxpayers is we have taxable estates and trusts. Okay, di na natin masyadong i-discuss. Just take note lang ha kung sino to sila. Okay. So, next is we have corporate taxpayers. So, sinong mga corporate taxpayers? This includes partnerships, corporations, joint stocks, and other companies excluding GPP or general professional partnerships. So corporations are typically divided into two types. We have domestic and we have non-foreign. Okay? So when we have domestic corporations, these are corporations incorporated or organized under Philippine law. Example is Jollibee, di ba? It is created under Philippine law. Meanwhile, a foreign corporation is a corporation that was organized under a foreign law or it was incorporated or created under foreign law. Example is McDonald's US. Okay? So, meron rin tayong McDo Philippines. Okay. So, McDo US is a foreign corporation. A foreign corporation can be subdivided into two parts. Katulad ng alien, meron tayong resident foreign corporation or RFC and non-resident foreign corporation or NRFC. So anong difference ng dalawa? Paano natin masasabi pag resident foreign ng isang corporation or non-resident? So typically, a resident foreign corporation operates and conducts business within the Philippines. So pag may negosyo sila or nagne-negosyo sila sa Pilipinas, considered sila as resident foreign. Meanwhile, pag di siya nagne-negosyo at di siya nag-ooperate or nagko-conduct ng business, okay, it is considered as a non-resident foreign corporation. So paano natin masasabi na nagko-conduct siya ng business? Pag may permanent establishment siya na nasa Pilipinas. Ano tong permanent establishment? Ito ay isang branch of the company that is affixed to a permanent location. Ibig sabihin, may building, may lugar na kung saan nagnenegosyo siya or nag-ooperate. So that is what we mean by a permanent establishment. Nagko-conduct siya ng business at for profit yung business na yon. Okay? So that is what is a permanent establishment and how we properly identify whether a foreign corporation is resident or hindi. Again, pag nagnenegosyo siya, typically it is a resident foreign, and pag di siya nagnenegosyo at di siya for profit, it is a non-resident foreign. Okay. So, we also have other types of corporate taxpayers. Meron tayong partnerships, joint ventures, and co-ownerships. We will not discuss this one by one na ha, kasi I assume na nabasa niyo na to. It's very self-explanatory kung ano to. I think na-discuss na rin sa law sa inyo at saka sa accounting nyo ang mga difference ng mga items na to. Okay. So, what's the importance? Bakit natin kailangan i-segregate yung mga items na to? Nandito kasi, it's important because depende sa type of taxpayers, okay, you may be taxed within and without of the Philippines. So what do we mean by within? All forms of income earned within the Philippines, of course, is subject to taxation. However, if you are a resident citizen, all income earned outside of the Philippines, ang correct term for tax purposes is without. Okay, guys? Income earned outside or without of the Philippines is taxable for resident citizens. Okay. Kasi you are still under the main jurisdiction of the country. Therefore, all forms of income, regardless of shape of form or saan siya nanggaling, is subject to tax. This is the same for domestic corporations. Meanwhile, pag NRC ka, resident alien or NRA, ETB or NRTB or NRFC ka, or non-resident foreign corporation, or RFC ka, you're only taxed within the Philippines. Okay. Wait lang ha, somebody may nag-chat. Okay. Okay. So, what's the rationale? Typically, these uh, non-resident citizens, aliens, and foreign corporations are only taxed within the Philippines because ang rationale dito is that because yung income nila is only applicable within the Philippines, or this is subject to the benefits that they have received. Okay? So any income earned by these taxpayers outside of the Philippines is not subject or cannot be subjected to tax because yung benefit they have received is only within the Philippines. So income earned outside is not subjected or cannot be subjected to taxation. Okay. However, yung mga resident citizens at saka domestic corporations, it is assumed that they have received benefits one way or another. Therefore, since they are the items or sila yung mga tao na nakaka-receive ng majority ng benefits from the Philippines, therefore, their income both within and without should be subject to tax. Okay. 'Di ba kasi resident citizens daw ang usually nasa Pilipinas, silang nakaka-receive ng benepisyo mula sa gobyerno, therefore they should be taxed more. This is the same for domestic corporations. Since they are protected more by the Philippine laws, therefore income earned it within and without should be subjected to taxation. Okay. So these are the general rules in income taxation. Please take note of this, guys, ha? It's very important on how to distinguish pag resident citizen ka, non-resident citizen, alien ka, or non-resident alien. It's also important to distinguish whether a corporation is domestic or foreign. Pero it's very easy. Sinasabi naman kung domestic or foreign siya. Okay. Are there any questions before we move on? Okay. If there are none, next is what are the cycles of income? Okay. So 'di ba last time di natin diniscuss kasi yun nga sabi ko, it's very repetitive. Okay. So the cycles of income, we have the following. There are 7 actually. 7, 8, 9. Oh. So we have the following cycles of income. Okay? Babasahin na lang natin, di na natin i-explain masyado. Okay. So what do we mean by cycles of income? This means to the place where the income was earned. Okay. So, for the following income, here are the cycles of income or saan siya na-earn. Number 1, interest income. It is earned at the debtor's residence. Okay. So, pag ikaw ang nasa Zamboanga, ikaw ang nagpapahiram, yung naghiram sa'yo sa Manila, so income is earned in Zamboanga. Number 2, royalties, where the property is employed. Hindi properly ha, where the property is employed. Okay, or saan ginamit yung royalty. Number 3, rent income, of course, kung nasaan located yung property. Number 4, service income, where the service is being rendered. Okay? So typically, it is at the place of the business, okay, where the service is being rendered. Number 5, gain on sale of personal properties. Pag domestic securities, it is assumed na earned siya within the Philippines. Pag others or other form of personal property, it is earned where the property is sold. Kung saan daw nabenta yung property na yun. For real properties, it is earned where the property is located. For dividends, okay? Domestic corporations or dividend income from domestic corporations, it is earned or presumed earned within the Philippines. And for foreign corporations, it is earned depending on the predominance test. So ano ibig sabihin ng predominance test? If the ratio of Philippine gross income over world gross income over the 3-year period of the corporation is at least 50%, okay? So, the portion of Philippine income is declared within. Okay. However, pag less than 50% daw yung predominance test, ibig sabihin, it is earned without. Okay? So, please take note na lang nitong predominance test. I think naka-explain naman rin to kung paano itong kino-compute. Okay? We will not go over it na talaga. It's very basic and easy na lang kung paano to. And number 8, we have merchandise income. Saan daw na benta yung property? Of course, yun ang situs niya. And number 9 is manufacturing. Okay, so saan na-earn ang manufacturing income? It depends on where the goods are manufactured and sold. So for manufacturing income, kindly take note of this table na lang. Okay? It depends sa production and distribution kung saan na-earn. Okay? It's very simple and self-explanatory na lang. Okay? Take note na lang nito. Okay. So, next topic is chapter 4 na tayo. What are the different income tax schemes? Okay. So, can anyone tell me? Ako natatawag. Briones, what are the different tax schemes?
So there are three different tax schemes, sir. Namely, yung final income tax, yung capital gains tax, and yung regular income tax, sir.
Okay. So, thank you for that. So, yun nga. There are three major classifications of income tax schemes. We have final income tax, capital gains tax, and regular income tax. Okay, so each one of these is mutually exclusive, which means that kapag subject kasi isa, di ka naman sa subject sa iba. Okay, isa lang talaga. For final income tax and capital gains tax, don't worry, di-discuss natin to after natin i-discuss yung income taxation on individuals. Okay. For regular income tax, ito na yung dinidiscuss natin. Please take note ha, pag subject ka sa isa, di ka naman sa subject sa dalawa or the rest of the two. Okay. So what's the difference? Final income tax from the word itself, final na siya. Pag na-subject ka dyan, di ka naman sa taksan or di ka nang pwedeng taksan. Okay? There's also no need to file any more return. Okay? Generally, yung final income tax is subject lang siya to passive income. Okay? However, please take note, di lahat ng passive income are subject to final tax. So anong distinction? Passive income is earned with very minimal or without active involvement. Ibig sabihin, umuupo ka lang, kumikita ka na. While active income is earned with active involvement. Ibig sabihin, may ginagawa ka. Okay? So yun ang distinction ng between the two. Okay? Please don't worry. We will discuss this in length when we go to final income tax discussions. So ano naman yung capital gains tax? This is imposed on the capital gain on the sale, exchange, and disposition of certain capital assets. So ano yung capital assets? Okay, please take note guys ha. There are two general classification of assets for tax purposes. We have capital assets and we have ordinary assets. So ano bang capital assets? So according sa tax code, capital assets are all other assets other than ordinary assets. Okay. So parang encompassing siya. Catch all siya. Okay? Pag capital asset ka daw, pag di ka ordinary asset. Yun lang ang description ng tax code. So ang importante dito is malaman natin, sino ba si ordinary assets? So ordinary assets are directly used in business, trade, or profession. So example, pag may property ka, hindi mo ginagamit sa business, trade, or profession mo, that is considered as a capital asset. Okay. So kapag may capital asset ka, typically any sale or exchange from this is considered or should be taxed under capital gains tax. Okay? So, and lastly is we have ordinary income tax. So ordinary income tax is the general rule of taxation. Okay, what do we mean by this? This means that typically all forms of income should be subjected to regular income tax unless you fall under the exemption rule of capital gains tax or final income tax. Okay, so regular income tax actually covers all forms of income, whether active gains from dealings in properties or other passive income not subjected to final taxes. Okay, so actually RIT is the rule when it comes to income taxation. Ibig sabihin, generally an item is subject to regular income tax. Okay, unless magfo-fall under siya sa exemption. Okay? So, next topics is introduction to regular income taxation. So actually chapter 7 na tayo. Chapter 4 is very short kasi it just talks about income tax schemes. So it's not very important in the bigger scheme of things, okay? Kaya lang natin siyang skip muna. Okay, so let's now go on to regular income tax. Okay. So, what is the RIT model? Okay, can anyone tell me what is the real income tax model? Chapter 7 na to. Okay. Chapter 7. Pakisay, Jeff. Can anyone tell me what is the RIT model? Or paano yung model ng real income taxation? Sige. Yung una, si Gadin. Ah, hindi. Parang ano, robotic. Paki-ano daw, parang robotic yung voice mo. Ah, hindi kita marinig. Parang robot yung voice mo. Hello, hello, Miss Gadin. Are you using anong ginagamit mo? Are you using a voice exchanger?
Not,
May voice changer?
not po, sir.
Okay na, okay na. Sige.
Okay na, sir.
Okay na, okay na.
So,
So
ang
what is the
RIT
RIT model?
is gross income less allowable deductions yung mga dinededuct ng company. Tapos, tax equals to taxable income less yung tax rate natin. Tapos yun na po. Net
Okay.
income.
So thank you for that. So the real income tax model, according to the tax code, tells us that taxes should be computed as follows. So we have gross income, less allowable deductions. We will have our taxable income, less the corresponding tax rate. Then we will have our net income. Okay, so please take note. Ito yung general model of income taxes. Okay. So actually, for today, i-discuss natin yung concept ng gross income. For next meeting, we will be discussing allowable deductions and how to compute. Okay? And so, yun ang part 2 natin. So, part 1 hanggang gross income lang tayo. Okay, so this is the real income tax model. Okay, kindly take note of this kasi ginagamit rin natin to sa accounting natin. Okay. So, wait lang naglalag pa. Okay. So, next question is what are the 4 characteristics of the real income tax or RIT? Sige, Yumaira.
Sir, yung 4 characteristics is first, it's general in coverage. Meaning, sir, katulad ng sinabi nyo kanina, yun ang general rule. If hindi siya subject to other tax schemes like capital gain or final tax. Then secondly, net income tax siya. So, kailangan muna natin i-deduct mga allowable deductions and exemptions. And then third is annual tax. So, meaning, sir, annually siya tinatax. And then fourth is yung creditable withholding tax, sir.
Okay. So, thank you for that. So, the 4 characteristics of RIT, number 1, again, general in coverage, encompassing all siya. Number 2, net income tax. Okay? Ibig sabihin, ini-impose lang natin to sa residual profits or sa kita natin or sa gains natin. Number 3, this is imposed annually. Okay, so ibig sabihin, once a year lang natin to binabayaran. And number 4 is that it is subject to the creditable withholding tax system. Okay, so ano tong creditable withholding tax system? Ibig sabihin nito is that income natin ay nini-withholdan or parang kinukuhaan ng portion tapos binabayaran na in advance ng customers natin. So example, to further clarify the creditable withholding tax system, okay, ganito. Pag nagbenta ka daw ng isang cellphone for 100,000, okay. So yung kanino mo binenta, bago niya bayaran si 100,000, let's say 1% ng sales mo or 1,000 pesos, babawasan niya na doon at ire-remit niya sa gobyerno. So that is creditable withholding tax. This is an advance tax paid by the customer on your behalf at babawasan yung amount na matatanggap mo. So, since nabawasan ng 1,000, yung matatanggap mo is 99,000 na lang. So, ano nangyari sa 1,000? It is an advance tax deductible against your annual income tax. Okay, so guys, ngayon, hindi pa natin naintindihan kasi wala pang problem. So, don't worry. When we go to the complex problems later on, we will have an understanding of creditable withholding tax. Okay, but again, it's the concept we're in. Yung income mo, babawasan na ng kaunti para maibigay na sa BIR. Again, bakit natin ginagawa to? It goes back to the lifeblood theory. Okay. So, next is what is gross income? Okay, can anyone tell me what is gross income? What is gross income? What do we mean by gross income? Ano na lang, JB.
Hello, sir.
Sige,
Audible
what?
ako, sir.
Yes.
Gross income, sir, constitutes all the income items of income that are neither excluded sa final tax at saka capital gains tax, sir.
Okay, so thank you for that. Gross income constitutes all item. Bali lahat daw siya. It more of a general rule siya. Okay? It is the general rule. Basically, lahat ng income na meron tayo forms part of gross income. Except pag excluded siya or subject to capital gains or final taxes. Okay, so what do we mean by exclusion? Di muna natin di-discuss na ngayon. Yun ang last topic natin. Okay, exemptions to exclusions and exemptions to gross income. Okay. So, thank you for that, JB. Next question is, what are deductions? Okay. Tawag na lang ako ha. Perez. Hindi. Tapos na pala. Si Rarugal. Okay. Miss Rarugal, what are allowable or what are deductions?
Sir, so these are the, marinig ba ako, sir?
Yes, yes. Sige.
Okay. So these are deducted against gross income from business or profession, sir. Yun na yung parang mga deductions na ginagawa natin arrive to the taxable income, sir.
Okay. So, again, thank you for that, Miss Rarugal. Okay. So, deductions, these are expenses conducted in the trade or business, okay, or in the exercise of profession. Typically, expenses or deductions may be claimed, itemized, or a taxpayer may opt for optional standard deduction. Okay, for now, wag mo muna nating i-focus sa deductions kasi we will be discussing this next week. Okay. So again, deductions lang, please take note. These are legally permissible expenses conducted in trade or business. Ibig sabihin, ginastos mo talaga. Okay? Typically, there are certain items for allowable deductions. Okay? May listahan yan. Sino-sino lang yung allowed. Okay. So next is, what are the items of gross income? Okay. So there are 2 or 3 ata dito. Can anyone tell me? Ako na lang. Velasco, what are the items of gross income?
Sir,
Sige.
marinig, sir.
Yes.
So, the items of gross income, sir, are compensation income and business or professional income.
Okay. So again, the items of gross income are, wait lang ha. The items of gross income are compensation, business, and meron tayong other income na miss out mo. Okay. So thank you for that, Ms. Velasco. There are typically 3 items subject to regular income tax or items of gross income. Number 1 is compensation income. Ito yung income nang galing sa pagtatrabaho mo. Number 2, business income or professional income. This is income generated from the conduct of trade or business. And number 3, other income. Ito yung mga wala kang ginagawa or these are non-business income and non-compensation income. Example, may binenta kang property or may passive income ka such as from interest. Okay. So, to further clarify, okay, ganito yung, this is the, in relation to the RIT model, okay, ito yung ano natin, ito yung paano natin siya isosolve or paano natin siya makikita under sa RIT model. So employment income, for any employment income earned is part of gross income, however, there are no deductions allowed. That's automatic na, and employment income is net of any deductions or any benefits that you have received. So automatically, pag nagwo-work ka, example ako, I'm working for Ateneo and I'm also practicing my profession. So any income I earn from Ateneo will form part of my gross income. Bakit? Gross kaya automatically deducted na siya. So there are no more deductions to be deducted. Okay? Or there are no allowable deductions for business purposes. Wala naman akong deductions, di ba? Kasi teacher ako, I am paid or employed as a whole. So wala akong legally permissible deductions. So walang deductions dito. However, for my business or professional means, may gross income ako, ito yung items na in-earn ko. However, pwede akong mag-claim ng deductions. Okay, because Of course, these are legally permissible means allowed by the tax code. And of course, yung others natin. Others, again, since hindi naman siya in the trade, conduct of trade or business, therefore, wala tayong deduction. So if you see, only business or professional income can claim deductions. So i-add mo tong tatlo at makukuha natin yung general RIT model natin. Okay? So, any questions or clarifications before we move on? Questions, clarifications, guys? Okay. So, if there are none, okay, wait lang ha. Okay. Wait lang ha. Give me a few minutes kasi sumasakit yung throat ko. Okay lang. Wait. Okay. So, ngayon, ano mong difference ng compensation income? Wait lang. Naglalag. Okay. So, what's the difference of compensation income from business income and from professional income? Okay. So, let's discuss this one by one. Okay. Can anyone explain to me what we mean by compensation income? Cinco.
Audible po. Hello?
Yes, audible.
Okay, sir. Yung compensation income, sir, so arises from employer-employee relationship.
Yung telephone number, may telephone number talaga.
Meaning po, yung total cash and non-cash payments na binibigay ng isang employer sa employee, sir, in exchange for the work they do, sir.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Cinco. So actually, compensation income comprises of all forms of remuneration earned in an employer-employee relationship. So, what do we mean by employer-employee relationship? Ibig sabihin, may nagtatrabaho at may nagpapatrabaho. Okay, typically, all forms of income dito kasali yung regular pay, other benefits and bonuses, including monetary and non-monetary benefits, 13th month and de minimis benefits granted, and fringe benefits. Okay, which is typically subject to fringe benefit tax. Okay, for the purpose of our class, we will not and don't have enough time to discuss compensation income. Okay, actually this is chapter 10 and 11 ata to ng book nyo. However, kulang talaga tayo sa time to discuss this. So don't worry, when we go hopefully sa tax tree natin, we can still discuss this. Okay. So, again, compensation income is income earned from all forms of income earned within an employer-employee relationship. Okay. So, there are two general classifications of income. Meron tayong regular income and fringe benefits. So, ano tong fringe benefits? These are other benefits that are typically not given to a taxpayer or to an employee. So, example dito, yung mga maid, yung mga driver, or yung mga kotse, these are fringe benefits. Typically, you are not given these benefits, but rather these are additional bonuses granted to higher ranking employees. Okay. So, when we have regular pay and fringe benefits, we classify them according to rank and file ba siya and managerial. And ano yung consideration niya? If you have regular pay and this is paid to rank and file, it is considered as compensation income. Okay? And therefore subject siya to real income tax. The same for managerial or supervisory employees. Ang difference is when it comes to fringe benefits. If you provide fringe benefits to rank and file, it is considered still as part of compensation income and subject to real income tax. Okay? However, pag may fringe benefits ka na binibigay sa isang managerial or supervisory employees, these are considered as fringe benefits and should be subject to fringe benefit tax. Okay. So, yun ang main distinction ng dalawa. Okay? So, again, what is fringe benefit tax? This is another form of taxation, different and separate from compensation, from real income tax or income taxation. Okay. So, pag may fringe benefit ka, tapos binibigay siya sa managerial or supervisory employees, therefore, subject siya to fringe benefit tax or FBT. Okay. So, how do we report compensation income, we have this general table. So we have gross compensation income less non-taxable income, less wala na tayong personal exemption. So we will automatically have net taxable compensation income. Etong net taxable compensation income, ito yung i-report natin dito. Ito yung i-report natin dito as part of our gross income from employment. Okay? Gets ba guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, itong gross income dito, it is the net taxable compensation income after deducting all non-taxable portion of our income. Okay. So next, what is business income? Can Peralta tell, may nag-raise ng hand. Sino to? Si De La Rosa.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I can hear you.
Sir, yung business income, sir, bali ito yung mga earn ng isang company, sir, through sir, yung mga binibenta nila sa ordinary course of business, sir, like pwede mga inventory nila or mga services, sir. Tapos, sir, bale yung gross income nito is ma-derive from sales, sir, less cost of goods sold, sir.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Sino to? De La Rosa, no? Okay. So business income is income derived from the conduct of trade or business. This arises from the habitual engagement in any commercial activity involving regular sales of goods or services. Okay, so meron tayong sales at saka meron tayong cost of goods sold or cost of sales, magkakaroon tayo ng gross income. So yung sales less cost of goods sold, we will have gross income. Itong gross income lang to, ito yung i-report natin as part of our RIT table. Okay? And for cost of goods sold, di ko na masyadong explain guys kasi na-discuss na rin to sa inyo. Here is the table lang or here's the formula on how to arrive at cost of goods sold. So meron tayong beginning inventory plus purchases plus freight in. Meron tayong total goods available for sale. Less ending inventory, we will have cost of goods sold. Again, na-discuss na ata to sa accounting nyo nung grade 12. So you should be familiar with this. Ha? Anong phone? Check mo sa client database. Nasa client database yun. Okay. So, next is professional income. Anong main distinction nito? Professional income is income earned from the exercise of your profession. So, sino yung considered mga profession? These are yung mga tao na kailangan mag-take ng board exam as conducted by the PRC or Professional Regulatory Commission. Commission ba yan? Oo. Example nito is yung mga CPAs, lawyers, doctors, and engineers. Okay. So, tayo as CPAs, we are considered as professionals. Okay. Are there any more questions or clarifications? Nasa client database. Check mo, A. Minda, AS Cargo. Tanda Darussalam. Same owner lang yan. Mag-isang owner lang yan. So, same lang yung telephone number nila. Okay. Okay, so saan na tayo? Okay. So for cost of service, paano doon natin i-compute yung cost of service natin as a professional? This pertains to all direct costs in rendering the service such as cost of labor, materials, and overhead. So for cost of service, it should be clearly distinguished from the cost of administration and marketing of business. Okay? So, cost of service is different from cost of administration and marketing. So, ano yung mga cost of service natin as accountants or as professionals? Ito yung mga labor, materials, at saka overhead directly related to the rendering of the service. Okay. So, how do we report this? Or paano ba natin nire-report yung income ng isang business o professional? So, we have this expanded, okay? computation. So meron tayong net sales plus add other taxable income not subject to final tax, we will have total sales or revenues. Less cost of sales, we have gross income from business or profession. Add non-operating income, we will have total gross income less allowable deduction, we will have our net income. So kindly take note of this table guys ha, because especially itong part na to ha, this part, kindly take note of this, okay? Kasi pag ang tatanungin sa inyo sa board exam, magkano yung gross income, you should know ano-anong components ng gross income, okay? So we have net sales, add other taxable income from operations, magkakaroon tayo ng total sales. Less cost of sales, we will have gross income from business, okay? Plus non-operating income, magkakaroon tayo ng total gross income. Okay, so please take note of the distinction kung saan or sino mauuna or sino ang anong i-add para makuha natin yung total sales or anong i-deduct para makuha natin yung gross income. Okay, so please take note of this computation for reporting of business or profession. So question, what's the distinction between revenue versus gross income? Revenue is a gross concept, so it refers to the entire item. Okay? It refers to the total return. While gross income is a net concept, it pertains to the return on capital. Okay. So ito daw yung kinita mo or ito yung return sa income na meron ka. Okay? So, other taxable income from operations, there's are only secondary or incidental. Ibig sabihin, these are not main forms of income but rather incidental to the primary source. So, example, for a school, income from rental of food stalls or yung mga other incidental income are considered as other taxable income from operations. So example, Ateneo, tuition fees are their main income. Meanwhile, yung mga rental fees nila from the canteen are other taxable income from operations. Okay, so yun ang main difference ha, yun sa canteen. Meanwhile, yung income sa bangko, di ba alam nyo may Metrobank at saka yung land speed sa do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Those are considered as non-operating income because those items are not directly or does not form part of their usual operations, di ba? Ateneo is not engaged in the business of providing providing rental services. So therefore, all other income not directly related to the main operation of the company is considered as non-operating income. So examples nito is gains from dealings on property, income distribution from a GPP, casual active income, and passive income not subject to final tax. Okay. So these are other non-operating income. So kindly take note. So again, etong reporting na to, this is for an individual. There's a different reporting pag corporation tayo. So how do corporations report? Ito yung sa corporations. Net sales less cost of sales. So mauuna guys actually yung gross income from operations. Okay? So mauna babawasan yung cost of sales before i-add yung other taxable income. So there's a slight difference. Please take note of this difference, okay? Kasi magkakaroon ng effect sa computation nyo. Okay? However, the overall net amount or net income would be the same. However, when it comes to gross income at saka yung total gross income, there's a slight difference. Okay? So please take note of this item. Also, please take note for corporate taxpayers, walang non-operating income. Why? Corporate taxpayers are prohibited from conducting business that is not directly related towards their main purpose or not stated within their articles of incorporation. So for Ateneo, actually, yung rental income niya ay other taxable income na from operation na subject. Dito na lang siya pwedeng i-classify kasi wala na tayong non-operating income. Dati actually, meron pa yan. However, due to the recent tax code change, pinatanggal na. At ito na yung bagong formula. Okay, so please take note of this formula na lang guys ha. Are there any more questions and or clarifications? May tanong ba? May tanong ba or okay, if there are none, let's move on. So actually, please bear with me kasi mahaba yung chapters natin. Okay, so how other matters na lang. How do we round up for centavos? Pag 49 centavos or less, dinadrop na natin siya. Okay? At pag more than 50 centavos, we round it up. Okay, so please take note lang of the centavo ruling. So pag nasa item is 100 pesos and 49 cents, magiging 100 pesos lang siya. And pag more than 50 cents, magiging 101. Okay? So, when is the deadline for filing? Annual tax return should be filed within 3 months and 15 days. Or April 15. Yan yung usual na deadline. Okay. For quarterly filing, meron din tayong quarterly filing ng income tax returns. For individuals, we file it using 1701QV 2018, and for corporations, we file it using 1702QV 2018. Okay, so these are the quarterly income tax returns. So, kailan pina-file yung quarterly returns natin? We have the following information. Okay? So, kindly take note na lang kung kailan siya pina-file. Okay. Hello, Sir Harold. Kosakel. Sige, kosa era ka, sir. Kosa? Oo. Hindi. Yan sa naman to ni Blooming, di ba? Okay lang ka, mas hindi home good siya lang. De, ano lang mampalta? De, lachenda, no? Sino nito? May tukod ya kaldita? Di suyo get kel. Sige. Kapag sabi ito, taming kaldali kumigo. Si, kay sisi lang to yung biya. Sige. Lamay lang kami niya kulihan manyana. Sige. Sige, sir. Bye-bye. Ay, sir. Okay, so kindly take note. Sorry guys, maraming tumatawag. Okay, so for the quarterly filing of income tax returns, these are the dates. Okay, so for individuals, meron tayong May 15, August 15, at saka November 15. These are permanent. Okay, di yan magbabago kahit kailan. Except due to extreme reasons katulad ng COVID, nagbago to. However, for corporations, it's 60 days after the end of each quarter. Since corporations follow a fiscal year or may follow a fiscal year, so it may differ. So please take note that it's 60 days after the end of each quarter. Meanwhile, for the annual filing, it is 3 months and 15 days. This is the same for individuals and corporations. Okay? So, let's have a sample problem. Henrik Corporation uses the fiscal year and operates between June 1 and May 30. So question, when should Henrik Corporation file their first, second, third, and annual income tax return? Okay, so I'll give you 5 minutes to answer. It's 10:38, 10:43, I will come back and I'll call someone to answer this one. Okay, so for the rest, try to answer. Mas maganda to kasi it will test kung kano kagaling kayong kumuha ng dates. Okay? Kasi a lot of people have a hard time understanding this. Okay? So, kindly take note lang. Or especially yung pagbilang ng mga 30 days or 60 days. Okay? It's very specific. Okay. So, again, 5 minutes, 10:38, 10:43, I will be back. Okay guys, I'm back. Let's try an answer. Si Abdullah, nakita ko nag-raise ng hand kanina. Sige, Miss Abdullah, can you tell me
Hello, sir.
when should we file our first, second, third, and annual ITR?
So for the first quarter ITR, sir, it should be on October 30 because
Okay,
since it starts operation on June 1, so meaning first quarter niya is from June 1 to August 31 and 60 days after August 31, it's October 30.
okay, sige.
So for second quarter ITR, it should be on January 29 because second quarter is from September 1 to November 30 and 60 days after November 30 it's January 29.
Okay,
So for third quarter ITR, it should be on April 29 because third quarter is from December 1 to February 29 and 60 days after February 29, it's April 29. For
okay,
the annual ITR, since its end operation for the fiscal year, it ends on May 30. So accordingly, it should be the ITR should be filed 3 months and 15 days after May 30. So it should be on September 15.
okay, very good. Thank you. So I hope that everyone got the answers right. Okay, so it's very simple. Kailangan nyo lang bilangin yung number of days. So actually, a lot of people find it hard because di nila alam yung number of days in a given month. Okay, so you should be familiar. May technique yun yung gamit yung kamay. Unfortunately, di ko mapakita kasi wala, sira yung video ko. Okay, so again, may technique yan. Using our hands, pwede nyo bilangin how many months are in a given day. Okay, so it's very important kung malaman nyo kung kailan yung 30 days, kailan yung 31, at saka kailan yung 28. Of course, alam natin yung 28 is on February lang. Okay, so that's it for our sample problem. So actually, we're halfway there na. Okay, next topic is inclusions from gross income. Okay, so let's have a 15-minute break muna kasi alam ko, after 65 slides, guys, na too much information na kayo. Okay? So, it's not necessary na 30 days ang isang, not necessary na 90 days ang isang quarter, guys, ha? Pero at the end, or at the close of each quarter, it's 3 months. Okay? 3 months talaga. Ang usual na count ng isang quarter, 3 months. Okay. Regardless, it's not 90 days, but rather more of 3 months siya. Okay. So, let's have a 15-minute break. So, it's 10:46. Let's come back at 11 to discuss inclusions from gross income. Kasi mabilisan na tayo dito. So, doon I'll be calling out people. Okay? Kasi alam ko too much info na rin tayo kasi kanina almost 2 hours na rin ako nagkukwento. So, I want you guys to rest up, get water, drink, move around, and have some rest. Okay? So, let's have a 13-minute break muna. Okay. Kasi ayoko yung tuloy-tuloy yung discussions kasi I know it's very heavy. Okay? So let's have a 13-minute break. I'll be back by 11. Okay guys, so we're back. So I hope na nakapagpahinga tayo at nakapag-recharge tayo ng kaunti. Okay? So let's start with our discussions on inclusion from gross income. So, first question is, what are items of gross income? Okay, so sige, Mr. Duterte.
Hello, sir.
Sige, yes. Again, before we start, can I request everyone, yung mga kaya, to turn on their videos?
Okay, sir, yung broad category lang, sir, of inclusions in gross income is yung gross income subject to final tax, capital gains tax, pati regular tax, sir. Right.
Okay, so thank you for that. So when we talk about items of gross income, there's a broad category here. Okay. Naka-screen share naman, no? Okay. So the term items of gross income or inclusions in gross income is a broad category pertaining to all forms of income. Mainly, items of gross income are gross income subject to final tax, gross income subject to capital gains tax, and gross income subject to regular income tax. What we're actually discussing, or what we want to point out, is gross income subject to regular income tax mainly. Okay. So, what are the inclusions of items from gross income? Okay. So, di ba pinag-uusapan natin gross income subject to regular tax. So, ano bang kasali dito? Okay. So, actually, we have the following categories. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 general categories. Actually, gumawa na ako ng acronym for this one kasi para di tayo mahirapan when it comes to learning this. Kasi pag isa-isa mo i-memorize, di ba, sometimes it would be very difficult. So the acronym is Bridge Carp GPP. Okay, so actually it depends on you kung paano mo siya gustong ayusin. So, there are 11. So I'll be calling one person each to discuss the pertinent point below. Okay, so let's start with Cabezas. Uh, kindly discuss the compensation portion of inclusion from gross income. Cabezas, Miss Cabeza.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
So, under dito, sir, compensation for services in whatever form paid. So, dito, yun na yung kanina yung compensation income, yung pertain sa types ng employee benefits that are subject sa regular tax.
Okay.
Then, yun lang.
Okay, does anyone want to add? Mr. Clemente, baka may gusto kang i-add.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Yun lang, sir, yung parang tungkol lang siya sa sa income na na-receives sa employer-employee relationship, ganun, na kung saan galing parang parang yun lang, sir, yung mga employee na-receive na benefits ng employees na subject sa regular tax.
Okay, sige. So again, when we talk about compensation income, included siya. It's one of the 11 items that are generally included as part of gross income. So ano bang compensation? It is compensation for services in whatever form paid. Typically, compensation na to is subject sa employee-employer relationship, or there is typically an employer-employee relationship. Typically also, kapag fringe benefits sa managerial or supervisory, hindi siya kasali. And typically subject siya to fringe benefit tax. Okay. So, yun lang ang sa compensation. Okay, next is business. Meron gusto mag-explain ng concept of business under sa inclusion ng gross income? Bakit siya, or what items are included? Miss Darunday. Miss Darunday, nandito ba siya? Miss Darunday. Since she's not answering. Miss Fernandez, kindly explain the concept of business.
Sir, yung business, sir, ito, sir, yung kinakandak, sir, ng individual, sir, kung saan, sir, may transaction na nagaganap, sir, pero, sir, for example, sir, ang profession po ng dalawang accountant, sir, po sila ang service po na kinandak nila is not for example, dalawang accountant, hindi related sa accounting activities, sir. So, mako-consider po yun as business, sir.
Okay, sige, thank you.
Right.
So, Business is included as part of gross income because uh, typically any gross or any item of income conducted in the name of trade, business, or exercise of a profession, whether legal or illegal, whether registered or unregistered, should form part of gross income. Okay, so gross income from business or profession is typically determined as follows. So meron tayong sales, less cost of sales of service, meron tayong gross income from operations. So bakit natin isasali? Because typically gross income conducted in the name of trade, business, or exercise of a profession, of course, is subject to regular income tax. Okay. So, typically, all forms of income, okay, generally lahat klase ng business income is typically subject to regular income tax. Okay. Except sa following, may dalawang exemption lang tayo. Okay. Income earned by a barangay microbusiness entity, ano to? Ito yung mga barangay na nagnenegosyo sa barangay, maliliit na negosyo, and income from those businesses enjoying tax holidays are not excluded. Again, business income is typically included because nasa general rule is that business income is conducted in the name of trade, business, or profession, and therefore it is regularly or should be part of regular income tax. Di ba? Di ba yung mean classification ng what should form part of gross income is of course business income. Also, included dito yung business income subject to special tax regimes. So what are special tax regimes? These are tax schedules or tax holidays provided by the Philippine government to certain businesses. Example dito is yung sa PEZA or Philippine Economic Zone Authority. Example ng PEZA is yung sa Zamboanga Ecozone. Businesses or those people or companies conducting businesses in the PEZA or Zamboanga Ecozone are subject to a different rate. However, they are still subject to regular income tax. However, it's a different rate lang. Nasa 5% lang siya. This is the same for Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority and self-employed individuals, okay, which are subject to 8% income tax. They are still subject, however, it's different. So bakit siya kasali? Because again, general rule, all form of income earned from business or trade, whether legal or illegal, whether registered or not, should form part. And lastly, is business income subject to final tax when when not subject to a final tax by the payer. So example nito is yung sa petroleum at saka sa FCDUs or foreign currency deposit units and offshore banking. These items are also included, although subject to final tax. Okay. So, that's it for business. So, next is we have, ano ba yung next? Okay, gains from dealings from properties. Can anyone explain? So, meron na tayong B, meron tayong C. So, gains from dealings in properties. Wang, what's the general rule? Paano masasali yung gains in dealings from properties sa gross income natin?
Ano siya, sir? Yung gain, sir, is subjected to the regular income tax. And then, yung particularly or mga activities that is considered gains from dealings in properties, it's either the sale, exchange, or the disposal of property of ordinary assets or capital assets.
Okay. So thank you. Okay, very good. So when we have gains in dealings in properties, typically only those assets that are considered as part of our ordinary assets are subject to regular income tax. Dealing capital assets, okay, such other than domestic stock and real properties are also subject to real income tax. Okay. So ordinary gains and not capital gains, okay, are included in our gross income. Okay. So, bakit natin isasali? Again, the concept of gross income is encompassing. So, lahat ng forms ng income, unless specifically exempted or excluded or subject to final tax or capital gains tax, that's the time na hindi mo siya isasali. Since all-encompassing siya, all forms of dealings from ordinary assets, of course, are subject, and certain capital assets, okay, other than domestic stock and real property, are also subject to real income tax. Okay, very good. Next is we have interest. Interest income. Can someone care to explain? Halon. Halon? Miss Halon? Hello? Miss Halon? Guys, if you do not answer when I'm calling you tapos nasa class kayo, you will receive 0 for the no ha? For the recitation. Okay, she's not answering. How about Darunday? Kanina kasi si Darunday. If you're already done reciting, I'll call you next on, later on ha. Kasi para may chance rin. Darunday.
Sir?
Yes, kindly explain the
Hello?
concept of interest.
So yung interest, sir, ito yung mga interest income, sir, na other than passive interest income daw po, according sa readings ko, they are
Hello? Nawala ka.
Hello? Sorry, sir, na-disconnect po ako, sir.
Sige.
They are the interest, sir, that are taxable kasi they arise, sir, from an agreement between parties. Hindi sila like yung passive interest income na na-earn lang without na walang agreement. So yung sinasabi dito na interest income, sir, these are those interests na arise from stipulation daw po, sir.
Okay, thank you. Very good. So typically, di ba, usually when we talk about interest, these are passive in nature and usually subject to final tax. So bakit natin pa rin isasali ang interest under our gross income from real income tax? So actually, these types of interest are what? These are interests which particularly refers to interest income other from passive income. So ibig sabihin, hindi siya subject to final tax. So a taxable interest may have actually been paid out of an agreement to pay interest. It cannot be imputed. So these are other interest income not specifically provided for in the tax code and not subject to final tax. Example nito is yung mga interest income from loan agreements to employees, interest income to directors, and as such. These are interests wherein it's not specifically provided for in the tax code. Also, we have some examples, interest income from lending activities to individuals or corporations by banks, finances, and other lenders. This also includes interest income from bonds and promissory notes, and interest income from bank deposits abroad. So these are the examples of interest income where hindi siya subject to final tax but rather subject siya to regular income tax. Okay. Thank you for that, Ms. Darunday. Next, we have rent. Lizardo.
Sir, marinig po ako, sir?
Yes.
Yung rent po, sir, subject siya to tax from leasing properties po of any kind. Tapos, since passive income siya, hindi siya subject to final tax, pero subject siya sa regular income tax po.
Okay. So, correct. Thank you for that explanation, Ms. Lizardo. Okay, so rent is actually, this arises typically from the leasing of property. Typically, rent is not subject to, although passive income siya, hindi siya subject to final taxes. And therefore, since hindi siya subject to final tax, it is subjected to regular income tax. Okay, that's it for rent. It's very simple. Okay, so meron na tayong business, meron na tayong rent, meron na tayong interest, meron na tayong gains from dealings in property, meron na rin tayong compensation. Okay. So, let's continue. Okay? After rent, we have royalties. Okay. So, please take note na lang of the considerations for rents. Okay? Kailan siya magiging rental or kailan natin i-consider yung income from rental. So, royalties. Can anyone explain to me the concept of royalties? Kailan natin siya consider as income from regular income tax at kailan siya mako-consider as not mabalot o si Christian.
Sir, royalties, sir, from what I have read, sir, these are like payments made by a third party, sir, uh, in order to gain access or use of uh, a patent, sir. So basically, sir, royalties earned from sources within the country are subject to final income tax, except when they are active by nature, sir. So, bale, sir, active royalty income and royalties earned from sa labas ng country, sir, are subject to regular income tax at that.
Okay, thank you for that. So typically, di ba, royalties are passive income, passive by nature. However, uh, and typically these are subject to final tax. However, there are certain cases wherein royalties are active by nature. It has already been a wide array of discussion and disagreement whether royalties is active or not. Typically, royalties considered active and earned typically royalties are considered active if it involves or if it is directly involved towards the business of a company, and there's a continuous involvement and continuous change and continuous improvement towards that royalty. Okay, so example sa mga Dota, di ba, yung mga gamings ng Dota, so any royalty income earned by Dota can be said to be active royal income. Okay, bakit? Or active royalty income. Bakit? Di ba continuously in-improve ni Dota yung system nila? There's a continuous improvement, continuous change. So there's an active income from that said uh, event or from that said activity. Meanwhile, yung mga passive katulad sa mga books, di ba? This income or yung mga books di naman masyadong chini-change or di masyadong binabago. Therefore, income earned from royalties from books are typically not considered part of regular income tax. Only active royalty income and royalty income earned outside are considered or should form part of regular income tax. Okay, thank you for that. So example is Forest Software is a distributor of computer program and earns royalty from its licensed users. Computer programs are specifically tailored to each client and regular client team maintenance services are provided. During the year, client users remitted a total of 500,000 in royalty payments. So yung entire 500,000 is considered as regular income tax since active siya in nature. Okay guys? So yun ang main difference. Royalty income which is active in nature should form part of regular income tax. Okay. So, okay na tayo sa royalties. Thank you for that, Christian. So, magkano? Kindly discuss dividends. Kailan ma-form part yung dividends as part of regular income tax? Magkano? Is he here? Wala siya. Makiling. Wala rin. Medalye na lang. Medalye.
Ano yung question, sir?
Kindly
Sinag-chat is.
explain the concept of dividends. Bakit siya i-include sa regular income tax?
So, yung dividends, sir, yun yung mga dividends declared daw ng foreign corporation. So, yung mga dividends na declared ng mga domestic corporations, sir, are subject to 10% of, of final tax. Pag yung recipient, sir, is individual taxpayer. Yun lang, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Medalya. So, for dividends, this pertains to dividends declared by foreign corporations. Typically, kapag resident or domestic corporation, sinasubject natin siya to 10% final tax. If individual ang taxpayer and exempt siya pag domestic or resident foreign ang corporation. So typically, under sa dividends, we only include dividends declared by a resident or a foreign corporation. If it is a domestic corporation, di natin siya isa subject to regular income tax, but rather it is exempt from corporation to corporation and subject to 10% final tax pag individual. So typically, for dividends, kasali or i-declare natin yung cash dividends, property at scrip dividends from foreign corporations. These are typically subject to percentage tax. However, pag stock dividend naman, it should be recalled that stock dividends are exempt from income tax. But when the declaration confers to the recipient a different interest or right after the stock dividend declaration, when the stocks are subsequently redeemed such that it amounts to payment of cash, okay, the fair market value of the stock dividend is taxable. So typically, stock dividends are excluded or are not taxable, di ba? Kasi wala ka namang na-earn na income dito. So, for the purposes of taxation, pag stock dividends, hindi. Unless, pag pre-promise na stock tapos ibang binigay sa'yo, that's the time na magiging taxable siya. So, thank you for that. Next is we have annuity. So, meron na tayong, we're done with bridge. Bridge, okay? So, meron na tayong compensation, royalties. So, now we go to annuities, then pensions, prizes and winnings, and last one is GPP. Okay. So, can anyone tell me for annuities? Peralta. Peralta? Wala. Sharon, wala. Okay, let's go back.
Blackout daw po sa kanila, sir. Pati kay
Blackout.
Magno po. Opo.
Okay. Halon. Halon. Wala rin si Halon. Yung mga tinatawagan ko, wala rin. Okay. Wala si Halon. Absent. Si Magno, wala rin. Blackout. Si Makiling. Is Makiling here? Wala si Makiling. Sige. So, wala sila. Wait lang ha. So, ngayon, yung mga si Peralta, wala rin. Okay. So, now let's have an open. Sinong gusto mag-volunteer? Sige, si Yumaira. Kindly discuss the concept of annuities. Kailan ma-include yung annuities?
So, based sa reading ko, sir, matatax lang yung annuities if naging return on capital na siya. So, meaning yung excess of your annuity payment, yun lang po, sir, yung matatax.
Okay, thank you. Yun lang, very simple for annuities. Typically, for annuities, the excess of annuity payments received by the recipient over the premium paid is taxable. So kung nagbayad ka doon ng annuity, kung ano ang sobra doon, yun lang ang magiging taxable. So example is, Andrew purchased an annuity contract for 100,000 which shall pay him 10,000 annually until he dies. So until makompleto yung 100,000, hindi pa taxable yun kasi yun ang return of capital mo. However, in excess ng 100,000, magiging return on capital na yun and therefore subject to gross income. So, annuities, di na natin didiscuss masyado kung anong annuities. Okay? Since we're already familiar with it. So, ang annuity lang kasi is more of a payment, nagbabayad ka, tapos after a certain period, you will get a return. Okay, si Myra, no? Okay. Next is for prizes and winnings. Kailan magiging taxable ang prizes and winnings? Okay, who wants to recite or who wants to volunteer? Sayang yung recitation points. Sige, Miss Fernandez.
Sir, actually, sir, ang prizes and winnings, sir, exempted siya, sir, sa final income tax. So, not siya items of gross income. Pero, sir, yung rules, may rules po tayo sa prizes and winnings for individual taxpayers. So, pag 10,000 and below, sir, pag within, regular tax, sir. And pag abroad din, sir, regular tax also. Pero pag more than 10,000, sir, final tax na po siya within, sir, and regular tax po siya abroad.
Okay. So, thank you for that. Actually, yun nga, as what mentioned by, sino to, si Ms. Fernandez, the concept of prizes and winnings is very simple. So, typically, prizes and winnings that are exempted from final tax are not items of gross income. Okay? Subject to regular income tax. So ano ba yung mga exempt na items? So meron tayong prices received without effort to join a contest. Ito yung mga di mo sinalihan pero nanalo ka. Prizes in athletic competition sanctioned by the respective National Sports Association, and winnings from PCSO or Lotto not exceeding 10,000 in amount. So pag exempt ka, di ka rin masasubject to regular income tax. However, there are certain prizes wherein pag lumampas ka or you did not meet the criteria, masasubject ka to regular income tax. Okay. So typically for prices less than 10,000, okay, it is subject to regular tax. Okay? Regardless kapag earned within or abroad. Pag more than 10,000, pag within, subject siya to final tax. Pag abroad, subject siya to regular tax. Pag PCSO, not exceeding 10,000, exempt sa lahat. However, pag exceeding 10,000, subject siya to final tax. Okay. So ngayon guys, pagtataya ko na ng loto, nanalo kayo ng 300 million, may final tax kayo na 20% on the 300 million. So actually, mabigat na. Di nyo matatanggap ng buo yung panalo nyo sa loto. Di katulad dati, prizes and winnings from loto are exempt from taxation. However, ngayon, baliktad na. Subject na siya to a final tax of 20%, di ba? So masakit, nanalo ka ng 300 million, mababawasan ka pa ng 60 million sa amount na matatanggap mo. Also, prizes from other sources is subject to, or winnings from other sources is subject to final tax, except pag earned abroad. Okay. So, final taxation for prices for corporations is not contemplated in the NIRC. Hence, taxable prices and winnings are subject to regular income tax. Okay? 20K, it's 10,000. It's not 20K. Excuse me, ha? Hello, auntie? Si, cosa ka lang, auntie? Si, ito si auntie kay dito yung Mansell Asiana. Aka si 000. Kaya hindi mo yung sa tan handle. Si, kanya lamang contigo. Muti. Sige, sige. Cuando daw sa pwede anda, auntie, kay yung hindi pwede man ano. Pati ito man si Ansettle li, auntie. So, nisita, manda to andali akal dito gente. Kaya hindi man yung sa tan handle L, asya na closure. Akal sa 000. Si, manda to anda dito gente, kabar manda to man explain ko nila. Or kung sir, kung Sir Robert ba, manda to anda la, para man explain si Sir, kung Sir Robert ko sa nisita anda, ase. Kasi yung auntie, hindi ko pwede ase ara kay senyo klase. Pati si tala si Sir Robert, abla to kon Sir Robert, lama kumingo. Para ansi na lang, manda to anda la kon Sir Robert, kabar si Talyele, manda to lang makumingo para uwiyo ko sa tabla si Sir Muti. Ansi na lang antiya kay para at least pwede pa kontigo ayud ako nese. Manda ara baleta manda to kal anda aranti kay olbida tamin sa sila. Sige. Okay, so sorry ha, may tumawag ulit. Okay, so we're almost done naman. Again, for prices and winnings, typically prices and winnings are not subject to regular income tax unless it does not meet the criteria or or under siya dito sa table na to. Okay? So please take note of that lang. Okay, so very simple lang for prices and winnings. And next is we have pensions. Who can recite for pensions? Wait lang ha. O si Makiling nandito na. Nandito na ba? Nawala ulit. Ano man to? Parang In and out siya. Okay? Chine-check ko lang yung mga wala. Okay. So, let's go with, wait lang, who are we going to pick? O, sige, Lizardo. Explain pensions. Kailan magiging taxable yung pensions or magpo-form part as siya ng gross income?
Sir, usually mga pension or other retirement benefits like SSS or mga na provide ng government, usually hindi siya subject to tax. Pero according sa rule dito sa book, sir, if hindi siya nag-meet ng exclusion criteria, nagiging subject na siya to regular tax.
Okay, so thank you for that. So actually, it's very simple lang naman. For pensions, typically, these are exempted. Okay? According to the law, pensions given to people who meet the criteria are exempted. However, if these pensions do not meet the criteria, they should be subject to regular tax. Okay. So ano-ano ba yung criteria ng pensions? Don't worry. I think na-discuss na rin to later on. Ano ba? Wait lang. For pensions, na-discuss siya sa mga PowerPoints explicitly nandun. So kindly take note na lang what are the retirement criteria for pensions. Okay. So if does not meet the exclusion criteria, masasubject siya to tax. Okay. So okay na tayo. And lastly is part GPP. Can anyone explain to me the GPP portion? Sige, Duterte.
Yes, sir. So GBP, sir, are not taxable entities, sir, generally. Kasi they are pass-through entities now accordingly. Pero yung distributable net income, sir, to the partners, yung matatax siya, sir, to the partners, not sa GPP entities, sir.
Okay, very good. Okay, so typically a GPP is a non-taxable entity because it's only a pass-through entity. Ibig sabihin dumadaan lang yung income. So the partner share or share ng partner from the net income of a general professional partnership is the one which is subject to tax. Okay, so yun lang naman ang basic concept of a GPP. Okay. So, again, for the general criteria for items of gross income are subject to regular income tax are not limited to aforementioned. Ibig sabihin, yung 11, hindi lang yun. But rather, it includes all forms of income. So they basically, items of regular income tax has a catch-all provision. Items that are not mentioned here may be subject to regular income tax, provided that they are not subject to final tax, capital gains tax, or a special tax regime, and are not excluded by law, treaty, or contract. Okay. So, we also have other sources of gross income subject to regular tax. Kindly take note na lang. Income distributions from taxable estates and trusts, shares from net income of other pass-through entities, farming income, recovery of past deductions, reimbursement of expenses, and cancellation of indebtedness for a consideration. So these are items wherein subject siya to regular income tax. However, it's not specifically stated. So actually, nasa PowerPoints ko, it's further explained there, and nasa book siya, it's further explained there. However, for the purpose of our discussion, hindi natin siya in depth i-discuss. Okay. So, please also take note of the following special considerations in reporting gross income. Number one is for the site accounting methods. There are two general accounting methods that we use. We have cash basis and we have accrual. For most companies, they use accrual basis in accounting. Next is the situs rules. Saan ba na-earn yung income as discussed earlier on, di ba? Na-discuss na natin kung saan nanggagaling yung mga situs. Next is the effect of VAT. For this one, let us not discuss this muna kasi it's a very complicated topic. However, please take note, VAT has an effect towards gross income. Next is the effect of creditable withholding taxes. Of course, as what I explained kanina, creditable withholding taxes serves as an advanced tax. Okay. And lastly is number 5, the power of the Commissioner of Internal Revenue to redistribute income and expenses. Okay, so these are the special considerations that we need to take note. So for the situs, di na natin masyadong i-discuss. And for the effect of value-added taxpayers, please take note, If your sales or income exceeds 3 million, magiging vatable ka na. Okay? And this would have an effect towards your income. Okay. So for now, just take note of this portion here. However, di na natin siya discuss because it's another banana. Okay? It's another concept that is too heavy for us to discuss today. It's actually, it's to be discussed in accounting taxation too. Okay. So, for our last topics, we have exclusions from gross income. Recap lang ako guys ha. So again, recap. So what are the items that are included or are considered as inclusions to gross income? We have breach, CARP, GPP. So again, income from business, okay, any form of business should be included. Compensation income, of course, di ba, part siya ng employer-employee relationship. So any income from compensation. Rent, any form of rent, although passive siya, it is still considered as part of our business and therefore should form part of our gross income. Annuities, only the excess of the annuity payment should be taxed. Interest, okay, only those interest not subject to passive income is or passive or interest that is not subject to final taxes should be subjected. For royalties, only active royalties are subjected. For dividends, only dividends earned outside are typically subjected. Okay, except stock dividends. For pension, pensions which do not follow the criteria or do not follow the rules and provisions set forth by the tax code are only taxable. Gains from dealings in properties or typically ordinary properties are the ones subjected. Prices and meanings. Typically, prices and meanings are exempted provided pag prices and meanings in excess of 10,000 ba yun are subject to regular taxes. And of course, GPPs. GPPs acts as a pass-through entity. So any income earned by a partner in a general professional partnership is to be taxed under his or her personal income tax. Okay. So lastly is ngayon alam natin kung anong included. So what are the items that are excluded from income tax? So we have the following. We have graphic, PICPAC, PICPA, PERA 1, 3, 5R. So there are around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So these are the items wherein these are excluded from ano to? Excluded from gross income. So number one, gifts, bequest, device, or descent. Any gifts, ako na lang mag-explain guys kasi para mas mabilis. So any gifts, bequest, device, or descent given to a person, of course, is excluded from gross income. Because again, this is considered as a transfer out of gratuitous nature. Therefore, pag ganito yung case niya, of course, hindi siya subject to gross income but rather exempted siya and subject siya to donor's tax. So letter G. Letter R, retirement benefit. Any retirement benefit granted to a person, of course, is exempted because, di ba, after mo nang magtrabaho, of course, the government would want to grant you the reprieve from paying taxes. However, anong criteria dito? As what was explained in the PowerPoints that I uploaded, okay? In order for retirement benefits to be exempt, what are the provisions? Wait lang ha. Retirement benefits. Wait lang. Hindi ko na-memorize. Okay. For retirement benefits, there are 4 criteria here. Okay. Number 1 is that there must be a reasonable private plan maintained by the employer. Number 2, you must have been working for the company for 10 years at the time of retirement. Number 3, you must be at least 50 years old at the age of retirement. And number 4, this is your first time availing of this retirement plan. Okay. So typically, retirement benefits from private companies, yun ang 4 na requirements. Kindly take note. For retirement benefits, for employees who have reached the age of 60 but not more than 65 with at least 5 years of credited services are also exempt. Separation pay due to death, sickness, or other physical disabilities also excluded. Also, yung mga social security benefits granted by the government, okay, through the SSS, GSIS, is also excluded. Okay? And also, any social security benefits granted to foreign foreign ano to? Non-resident citizens or resident aliens from foreign governments. This includes social security benefits from the US government, benefits from the United States Veterans Association, payments under RSSS system, and payments received under the GSIS. Okay. So typically yun ang requirements for retirement. Okay? So if a company does not uh, meet the requirements for exclusion, automatically magpo-form part siya as part of gross income. Okay na tayo sa GR. Okay? So next is A. So amount received by insured as a return of premium. Okay. So dito, if you're familiar with the concept of life insurance, okay, typically ganito yan. Example, si Pedro kumuha ng insurance policy. Sabi natin, nagbabayad daw si Pedro ng 100,000 per year for 10 years to be insured for 2 million pesos. In case after 10 years din namatay si Pedro, okay, may makukuha daw siyang 1.1 million. So after 10 years, ang binayaran niya is 1 million, tapos yung natanggap niya is 1.1. So the amount of excess received by an insured as a return of premium of 100,000 pesos will be subject or yung excess is subject to tax. However, yung amount na na-receive niya or as a return of premium lamang na 100,000 o yung 1 million is exempt. Again, typically, ang concept ng life insurance is like this. You pay a certain premium for a certain number of years. After that many number of years, usually, the premium would be returned to you. So example, if Pedro took up an insurance policy of 100,000 pesos for 10 years, and after 10 years, Pedro did not die. Malakas daw kasi si Pedro. Okay. So, sinauli sa kanya yung payment niya. Okay. So, the amount excluded is only up to the amount of the total premiums paid. So, magkano yung premium niya? 100,000 times 10 years. So, ang maximum na excluded is 1 million lamang. Any amount in excess of 1 million should be included as part of gross income. Okay ha? So, yung exemption lamang is kung magkano yung binayaran niya. Any amount in excess of that would be subject to tax. Next is proceeds of life insurance. Again, ito yung sa life, di ba? Pag kumuha ka ng insurance, tapos namatay yung tao, yung proceed ng life insurance would be subject to tax. Bakit? Bakit ba siya subject to tax? Because, yung proceeds of life insurance is exempt from tax pala. Sorry ha. Proceeds of life insurance is exempt from tax because basically this is just a return of capital. As what was discussed before, items of infinite value such as life, okay, do not gain or do not constitute as part of gross income because these items have infinite value. Therefore, any amounts paid in return or as a remuneration for the loss of life or loss of health or loss of property or reputation is exempt from taxation. So yung mga life insurance policies which is remuneration for loss of life is exempt. Okay. Letter I, of course, by madali lang naman to, pag income exempt under treaty, of course, dapat excluded siya. Okay? So very basic concept. Pag exempt siya, of course, dapat di mo siya isali. And letter C, graphic, malapit na tayo. Letter C is income or compensation income from injuries or sickness. Of course, pag nasaktan ka or may nakasaktan or may nakabangga sa'yo, tapos binayaran ka ng tao na yon as a payment for injuries or sickness, okay, is exempt from taxes. Why? Because again, this is a return on the loss of health that you have. Okay, so example again, naglalakad ka sa La Purisima at nabangga ka ng isang kotse. Okay. So, if nabangga ka ng tao na yon at kinasuhan mo siya, sabi ng korte, okay, babayaran ka ng 100,000 pesos for the hospital fees plus 1 million for compensation for injuries and sickness. So yung 100,000 pesos and yung 1 million is exempt from income. Why? Because this is basically just a repayment for the loss of health. Okay? Which has an infinite value. And therefore, all amounts is basically a return of the capital that you have lost. Okay, so okay na tayo sa graphic. Next is PICPA. PICPA, okay. Prizes and awards in recognition of Scarcel. Okay, so kapag binigyan ka daw o nanalo ka ng prizes and awards in recognition of Scarcel, okay, exempt ka daw from taxes. So ano tong Scarcel? In recognition of, wait lang ha, scientific, charitable, athletic, religious, etong nakalimutan ko na. Anong si Cell? Basta alam ko scientific, charitable, athletic, religious, CEL, educational, I forgot the CL. Okay. Basta check out your books na lang. I forgot yung acronym ni Scarcel. Wait lang ha, let me check. Ano bang, bakit may Scarcel ba yan? Prices. Wait. Okay. Scientific, charitable, artistic, civic, educational, and literary achievements. Okay. So kapag nanalo ka daw ng or binigyan ka ng prizes, okay? O binigyan ka ng prizes and awards in recognition for your achievements in scientific, charitable, artistic, religious, civic, educational, and literary works which you did not apply for, of course, exemption from taxation. Ms. Fernandez, may question?
None, sir. Napindot lang.
Okay. Letter I, income of the government and its political subdivisions. Of course, di ba, as explained in theory of accounting, it would be counterproductive for the government to tax itself. Wala siyang makukuhang benefit, however, gagastos lang siya. So therefore, by that virtue, income from the government and its political subdivisions is exempt from taxation. Letter C, contributions to SS, PhilHealth, HDMF, and union dues is exempt from taxation, basically because this is just a return of the premiums that you have paid, okay? And provided in the law that these items are exempt from taxation. Why? This is for your retirement. Of course, the Philippine government would want to encourage the healthy living and ano to? And the future of each Filipino citizen. So therefore, any payments made to SS, PHIC, HDMF, and other union dues are exempt from taxation. Letter F, income of foreign government or foreign GOCCs in the Philippines. Under to sa, do you still remember the inherent limitations? Under to sa sovereignty, di ba? SPINE, International Committee. Okay? We respect the sovereignty and the ano to? And we respect the sovereignty of each foreign government. Therefore, any income earned by a foreign government or its political subsidiaries or any foreign GOCC is exempt from taxation. And letter A, athletic sports competition awards and prizes. So, any awards earned by a person or by a Filipino who is competing in an international international competition representing the Philippines is exempt from taxation, provided that this is sanctioned by the National Sports Association. Okay, so example, si Pacquiao, taxable yun kasi he is not representing the Philippines, but rather he is representing himself. Okay, as Manny Pacquiao siya. Okay. For saan na tayo? Okay na tayo sa graphic peak pa. So next is pera 135R. Then we're done. Okay, so ano tong pera? This is from personal equity retirement account. So actually, the government provides that any contributions and income earned by the pera or personal equity and retirement account is exempt from taxation. This is to encourage Filipinos to invest more. Okay? Di ba kasi alam nyo naman, mga Pilipino daw, di marunong mag-invest or di marunong magtago ng pera. So, in order for Filipinos to earn more or in order for Filipinos to have more money, they encourage the savings and contributions to pera. This is a government account, okay, or government-made account na kung saan pwede mo daw i-save yung pera mo dito. So any income or contributions made is exempt. This is to encourage Filipinos to save more. Okay? Next is 13. Okay. Ito, kapag nagtatrabaho na kayo, okay, any income earned from 13th month and other benefits not exceeding 90,000, of course, is exempt from taxation. So kapag may 13th month pay ka and other benefits as long as it does not exceed 90,000, exempt siya from taxation. Number 5, gain from sale of bonds, debenture, or certificate of indebtedness with maturity of more than 5 years. So, sabi ng government, pag mag-i-invest ka daw sa Philippines or magbibigay ka ng bonds for more than 5 years or may certificate of indebtedness ka for more than 5 years, of course, di kita tataksan. Why? This is to encourage people to invest more. 'Di ba? Ano mangyari pag mag-invest sila? Yung pera pwedeng gamitin ng gobyerno. Okay, it will help improve the economy of the Philippines. And therefore, as an added benefit, if you invest in an investment scheme of more than 5 years, exempt siya from taxation. And lastly is gain from redemption in mutual funds. Again, this is another scheme by the government to help improve the Filipinos or the lives of Filipinos. Mutual funds are a way wherein Filipinos can invest their money cheaply. So sabi ng gobyerno, okay, kapag mag-i-invest ka dito, tutulungan kita, di kita tataksan dito. Okay? So that's why gains from mutual funds are exempted from taxation. Okay? So we're done with exclusions and inclusions of gross income. Okay, natapos natin siya within 3 hours. Okay. Any questions, clarifications, and violent reactions? Thank you for all those who have recited today. Again, continue natin yan next meeting. Okay? Any questions? Okay. We will have our first short quiz on Monday. Okay? Monday, January 18. It is 20 to 30 items, multiple choice lang lahat, on the topics that we have discussed. Okay? Again, ito lahat ng diniscuss natin, may quiz tayo, 20 to 30 items on Monday. Okay? I will be giving out the general instructions by Sunday. Okay. Any other questions and or concerns, guys? Okay. If there are no more questions or concerns, we'll end our lesson here for today. See you next meeting. Bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.